No. No was essentially the first word Jesus spoke, according to all the gospel writers. If you are the Son of God, prove it, the devil said to him. And Jesus responded, no. I will not turn stones to bread to prove I'm the Son of God. I do not have to prove myself to you. That's Jesus' first message upon beginning his understanding of his mission. His first way of expressing who he is was by asserting who he is not, what he will not do. He will not turn stone into bread. He will not throw himself down from the pinnacle of the temple. He will not bow down before Satan just to have earthly power. He reaffirmed it one last time in his dying, as a matter of fact. You just heard the gospel end with the words, for a time. The tempter left him for a time because, as a matter of fact, that tempter came back on the cross with the same temptation. With his almost last breath, he was being tempted once again, and no became his last word, no. When the tempter said to him, so if you are who you say you are, get down off that cross. He doesn't give up. Once again, he says no. There at the beginning of his ministry, the voices of self-doubt were loud for Jesus. Prove yourself, they were saying to him. Prove yourself. If this is who you think you are, then prove it. That in me that wants to prove myself to you or to anyone, even to God, we are hearing loud and clear in this text is nothing but a temptation. That urge to prove is a temptation. It's not from God. Like Jesus, you and I are constantly tempted to prove ourselves. Prove ourselves to our parents, to our friends, to our bosses, to our teachers, to our spouses, to God even. Prove to me that you are who you say you are. Prove it, those voices say to us. Perform for the crowds. Perform for your friends. Perform for your families. Perform to show everybody how awesome you are, how cool, how talented. Prove to me that you're successful, that you're special. Prove you are worthy of the friendship of all. Prove you're effective. Prove you are loved. Prove you have authority in your field, even in your life. Prove you're popular, that you're praised. Prove you've had an impact on someone or something. Prove you have it in you to run the world. Prove it. And so we go around trying to prove it. We one-up each other even in conversations so that people know one of those things is true of us. We're always trying to prove it. One of the true ironies of life is that if you feel you have to prove it, you are actually doubting it more than ever. One of the rare human achievements, it seems to me, one of the rare human achievements is to be so sure of ourselves that we can resist, refuse, say no to the temptation to prove ourselves, to prove our own worth to someone. And think for a second the extraordinary strength it takes to transcend that urge in us that we all have, to transcend and resist that preoccupying voice that keeps coming at us. Prove yourself. This is the moment when you can make yourself shine. How awesome to meet people along the way who don't have to prove anything to anybody. The way I hear it is he or she someone I can be myself with and relax with? Then obviously this is someone I don't have to prove myself to. If I can be myself with you, if I can relax with you, if I can breathe my own breath with you, then you are someone who's made this so safe, so reassuring that I don't have to prove anything to you. People may enjoy with you your successes, and people may grieve with you your failures. But for those people, those things have nothing to do with why they love you. Neither your successes impress them or your failures shame. Those are people worthy of the name friend. If you found people like that you can breathe with, you have a good friend. And perhaps I could add on this Valentine's Day morning, as we all think a little bit more perhaps today of our significant relationships, the need to prove ourselves in love will keep us from the very intimacy we long for. You want to be close to people, you want those kinds of friendship. If you keep proving yourself, you're going to push it away, you're going to shut it down. It ain't going to happen. If you are with somebody who will make you constantly have to reassure them that you love them, bolt. And when people keep getting jealous of your relationships with others, do not let them make you prove that you love them more than those others. Do not let them make you prove that. And if you are the jealous one, do not make them prove to you that they love you more than somebody else. That's just wrong. So much in our lives works against this ability to transcend this urge to prove, against what Jesus is demonstrating here. Because students all day long have to prove themselves to their professors that they know their material. People have to prove they can do the work to get a job or keep a job. But to reach maturity in life, to reach maturity in love, to reach maturity in our work, even as a student, we must find it in ourselves to resist those temptations, to resist it, to not let that bleed over into our relationships with each other, to say no to ever having to prove myself. I want all of us to be able to say to that voice when it comes up in us, I know who I am. I know who I am, and that's not me. That's not who I am. And I want my actions to make that clear. We must refuse, my friends, the cloud-pleasing trick. There was a line in one of Auden's poems that I've underlined for a long time now for myself, and it went simply this: to ruin a fine tenor voice for effects that bring down the house could happen to all, but the best and the worst of us. To ruin a beautiful voice just to have a big effect on the house and bring it down, but I'm telling you, it brings down houses. To prove ourselves, to want to be startling and shining and special to the world, brings down the house of my own life, the house of my relationships, and what's more, the house of God. That's the only house that really comes down in the end. To bring down the house means exactly that when you try too hard. I don't want my life, I don't want the life of my friends, I don't want the life of my family to be yet another performance piece for the world. These are the temptations, Jesus says. Jesus had to banish those temptations. If he was to reach full understanding of who he was. And they are the exact temptations we must resist now and at the hour of our death. Even banish from our hearts if we can, one day at a time, because they come up every day in every conversation, that we can do that. Best foot forward, best foot forward. Come on now. If you say the wrong thing, they're going to leave you. They're going to judge you. Do you see how exhausting it is? And we found out we're loved if who we are and what will happen is we'll find out we're loved for who we are and not just for how we want them to see us. You see, every time we say no to that garbage, every time we say no, we are creating ourselves. Every time we say no to that junk, we are creating ourselves in the image and likeness of God, and we're making joy and love possible in our lives, real love and deep joy that abides. Every time you say no to proving yourself worthy to another human being of love and attention, their attention, you are making intimacy possible in your life. You are really, truly making it possible that this can be real and good, and you can be close to another person. That no is self-creating. You know where I see this powerfully portrayed? And I want to seize the occasion to say this simply because we're having the confession marathon on Wednesday, but also because I know it's true from the times I go to confession. As Troy announced, confession marathon is this Wednesday from 2 to midnight or longer if need be. That's where I see this powerfully laid out for myself. When I go to confession, I experience this absolute, it's so touching to me. I mean, I experience this absolute reassurance. Because here's someplace in the world, I don't have to prove myself. As a matter of fact, I'm here to unprove myself. I stood in front of this human being, and I sit in front of God through this human being, that sacramental presence. And I come in, and you know what I do? I lay down the worst of me. I lay down the worst of me. Everything about me that says I do not deserve to be loved. I do not deserve that anybody would pay attention to me. I do not deserve, and I'm not who I say I am. And all I hear is, your sins are forgiven. You are loved. You're lovable. No matter what. You don't have to do it right to be loved. And I hear that in the sacrament in a way that just gets into the core of my being. I never want to go because I don't want to lay all that junk out. But what happens in that is just, I just have to say miraculous. Because in the very laying out and the acceptance of all that, and the not hiding anymore, and the not proving myself anymore, something changes in me. And I do hope you come Wednesday, because I want you to know a God who will never ever say to you, prove it. Prove it. Prove you love me. Prove to me that I should love you. In closing, let me just say, imagine living your life with nothing to prove to anyone, not even to yourself. That would be freedom.